Actually started our meeting.
Okay.
We'll officially start.
Here.
Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well.
What time
Take
were you
a breath.
expecting to start? No, I mean, you were,
5:30.
Should we do introductions before we start, or do you want to call it to order? Okay.
That's you, Steve.
It is now 4:40 and I would like to call to order the Curriculum and Student Development Committee of the Madison Board of Education. I'm Steve Finn, and members of the committee are Kathy Miller and Mary Ann Connolly. And we're joined by our chair, Seth Foskin, of course, our superintendent and our assistant superintendent. And my understanding is we have a great item on the agenda tonight that has to do with some work, exciting work that's been going on in relation to pre-K work. So at this point, I'll turn it over to our assistant superintendent, Gail Dallingitch, to introduce our speaker presenter.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here, and I want to welcome Drew Saletti, who is first grade teacher this year, but he also has experience in many other grade levels. And I just want to recognize Drew as a true teacher leader in these efforts. Drew has been organizing and championing this work for 2 years now as a volunteer project. This is truly a mission-based consortium and something that Erin Chester also believes in. She's been a very supportive teacher leader, as our own pre-K teachers have been. Drew's going to give you a little bit about the history and what exactly the consortium is. But I think it's important for the board to know about the consortium as we're getting ready to welcome our own pre-K classrooms into our school buildings to be a part of the pre-K through 5 buildings next year in the fall, as well as kind of the importance of pre-K education across the state, across the nation, the impact that early learning has on student success. Very well researched. So I'm going to turn it over to Drew with my thanks and my appreciation for every piece of time and insight that he has spent on this. He has been the key communicator to the organization, the organizer of all of the agendas and all of the special events that we've had, and also just making sure that we are ready, set, and productive at every meeting. So thank you, Drew.
Yeah.
Drew, I'm sorry, what school are you from?
I'm currently at Ryerson.
Oh, okay.
I started at Jeffrey.
And
So personally, hi, I'm Drew Saletti. I currently teach first grade at Ryerson. Can I will stand? Okay.
Yes, I may
Okay.
stand.
It just feels like
do it.
strange to sit and
I
talk at the same
know.
time. So I've been in Madison Public Schools. This is my 9th year in district. Actually student taught in Madison too. So I'm
Wow.
a full, I call it born and raised teacher in Madison because I'm actually originally from New York. So I'm really fortunate to work with a lot of supportive and collaborative people. And so originally, a couple of years ago, Gail had come to Erin and I, and she just expressed an idea and some interest. And ever since then, we kind of took off and ran with it. And so as we know, there's going to be a huge push, and there's a push currently in the state leading towards early childhood education and the research-based need for it and how it really sets up children for success in life. And so that's really where this was born from. And so, do I just hit next?
Yeah, if it works, does it?
Yeah, okay. I'm
Oops.
back one slide, it's okay. Oh, guys, don't work.
You know what, sometimes
Sometimes
I'll
it'll
just
go back.
stand here. I'll just stand
Well,
it.
I think it will go forward, maybe not backwards. So the why. So like I was just expressing earlier, we know that this is where the research is really pointing in terms of pointing us in the direction of early childhood education. And we've seen progressively over the years how education has really changed and morphed and in what we're asking students to do and to be ready to do. And also research-based practices are constantly evolving. So the Madison, we call it the Madison Community Pre-K Consortium. So if you look around Madison, we're really fortunate to have a huge number of early childhood educational learning centers, not just ones that are like pre-K learning centers, but there's so many early childhood in-home care facilities as well that all have a hand in working with each of our children before they make it to the Madison Public School System. And so there are over 10 early childhood learning centers in Madison. So what we decided to do when we were beginning was really focusing on those that are pre-K educational facilities. And so the why behind it was really looking at creating this group of colleagues in a typically isolated section of education. And you think of a lot of our early childhood learning centers, they're on an island. Each is kind of in their own little space. They are typically, except for TCLC, privately funded. And so in a way, they're competitors. And so we have to really think about how can we change that mindset from competition to working together to support all children in Madison and really whenever we can, wherever we can. So it's kind of really how this idea was born. Next, I did like. So when we're thinking about the how initially, so we had drafted a letter with Gail's support and really introducing and inviting everybody to be a part of this new idea. And it was just an idea. We did not know what it would turn into. We honestly didn't even know if anyone would participate, to be totally honest. And so our first meeting, which I'll talk about in just a minute, was really that time where we started to learn and it started to take shape what exactly it would become and lead toward. We just had the idea that we wanted to bring people together in support of students. And that was our initial idea. And so I put up here just some of the centers that are working with us that we've worked really closely and diligently with, including the Country School, TCLC, Circle Nursery, Madison School for Young Children, Temple Beth, and OLM. They have been really key partners in all of this. And we've had other partners along the way, and we're really looking forward to continuing that growth. Next. Okay. So the beginning, so this was our first official meeting. Very well attended, very surprised at first because we were so excited that this was happening. And especially because it's mission based. We had no money, we were just excited to do it. We used the resources and relationships that we had to work together and to just leverage what we could to get people involved. And so the top left is obviously a picture of our first meeting. We were looking back at it as a group the other day saying like, wow, look where we started a couple years ago. But like I said earlier, we really wanted to just kind of get a vision for the way that the group would head. And so on the bottom left, we came up with just some priorities that we thought would be really interesting for the group to explore in terms of early childhood education. So the different colored dots represent the different schools that were attending that first meeting. And if you look really closely, I know it's hard to see, so I'm not saying, what does that say? But those red dots were those like hot ticket items. The ones that they're I think called like a hot button issue or something to that effect. So if you look really closely, you can see the red was really concentrated. And so, yes.
I was just gonna ask,
Sure.
was Gail there? Was she helping facilitate it?
How did you know?
The dots. I know. I mean, listen, I was surprised it was more, you know, so.
You know my style.
I mean, I'll let Gail take full credit for the dots. You know, Gail loves.
She inspired us.
She loves sticky notes, post-its and dots, and posters like this and swag, so
Yeah.
all that you see along the way was totally Gail. But I think when you look at that spread, you can really see that although there are some differences in what the different centers were interested in, there is a lot of crossover and commonality that we could all really work together on. So to the far bottom right, where we look at it's a standards, understandings, and essential questions curriculum lesson. So that is taken from the pre-K's new curriculum that the district worked really hard in producing. And all of that's publicly available. And so the pre-K centers didn't necessarily know it was available, but we were also trying to show them that there are these standards that exist. And of course, the things that they do every day match those standards. But it's looking at it and making it more intentional and really seeing that this great work that you're doing in your facilities actually matches really well to the standards that exist.
So
And
you trying to get all these groups to do exactly, be on the same page.
be on the same page and understand that the work that they're doing is valued, not just by their families, but also by the public school district in town. You know, we are really proud of the work that the facilities are doing, and that when their children come to us, their level of kindergarten readiness and ability to be in the classroom, we want them to also see that they're, whether or not they're intentionally meeting those standards, they really are, or they're working towards them, maybe is a better way of saying that. And then, just the last thing on that slide, we did survey people, and everyone was interested in continuing the group, so that was also something we
That's
were
great.
unsure about,
Well,
is
what about all those dots? So we get to see what they were about.
I have a better picture that I can show you,
I'd like to see that.
I will,
Or send us the slides and then we can like.
yeah, I mean, I have a picture on my iPad, so I'm happy to show you.
I think they're also in your
They're in the
packets,
packet.
they're also like.
They're also in the packets, that's what I can say.
So how many different groups attended the first meeting?
So initially at the first meeting, all of the groups that were previously mentioned were there, as well as St. Andrews was there. And we also had a member who is currently trying to start an early childhood learning center. She's going to start as a home-based childcare facility and grow from there. So I think that would bring it up to about 9 or 10 different facilities in Madison. We did, I will say personally, I reached out to every early childhood facility in Madison. And these were the ones that were willing to become a part of the consortium at that point. So.
Thank you.
Correct. Okay, so when we're looking at the feedback, so like I just said, we did survey everybody, and I just picked some feedback that really stood out to me. And so when we're looking at why this group is really important to our community and pre-K educators especially, networking with colleagues, connecting with fellow educators to share experience and ideas. So that's something they don't get the opportunity to do in their siloed facilities. Teachers looking for ways to connect with other professionals in town. And the one that really resonated with me the most was Madison Public Schools valuing the work that they're doing in their schools. And so I think any opportunity for us, or for the district, Madison Public Schools, to create a relationship with other educational facilities in town is a really important opportunity for us.
Drew, can I
Yes,
just mention really quickly, just to be fair, that this isn't happening in the evening. So this is beyond the bell, so after the teachers have
Yeah.
spent all day nurturing
Yes.
young, the youngest, the littlest of littles. They're making their way to do more work around growing themselves as a practitioner. So I think it's important to mention
Yeah.
that this is not during their regular day.
And thank you, Kathy, that's a really important
Yeah.
point. Like Gail said earlier, we're 100% mission based. And so Mrs. Mary Chester and I, we do our work during the day, and then we come here. We've had, it was a Temple Beth one time, OLM opened their doors to us, so we're starting to get in there as well. But no one is getting paid to do this. No funding has really been to get people coming, and we've had a little bit of money, which we put to great use, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, it's totally mission based.
And are you taking more or less a teach the teacher approach where you have some representatives from each facility coming and learning, how to organize their curriculum, what the standards are, and then they go back and teach it to their.
That's a really great question, Seth. So what we're doing is we've actually just opened the door to anyone that wants to attend. So primarily directors have been the ones that have been coming to us. And what we've been doing is the work that we're doing really is led by the group. And so our hope and what we believe is happening is that they're taking what we're doing and bringing it back to the group. And further into some of the slides, when I talk a little bit about how we use some money we were granted, some of that becomes a little bit more clear. But anybody who wants to attend. So actually our recent professional development we had back in October, early November.
Yeah.
We had another professional from Circle Nursery saying, I want to come. They said, great, you're more than welcome. So it's really to anybody that's willing to donate their time. They find that it's an important cause and they have the ability to, because I'm sure there are people that find it really important that just don't have the time to come. So.
And all those nursery schools are really good. I actually have grandchildren in like 3 or 4 that are
Oh, yeah.
different.
I mean,
different
personally,
nursery schools.
my daughter goes to TCLC this year, but last year she went to OLM.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but positive things to say.
Yeah, and we had we've done Circle
Yeah,
and
I've heard
St.
wonderful
Andrews.
things.
Yeah.
And I will say personally, having a
And TLC,
relationship
yeah.
with different teachers in different institutions actually changes the way that I view other educational facilities in Madison as a public school teacher. from my experience. And so I think one huge piece that I think we're all kind of getting at here is that this is a really important opportunity to unite the public school with local private institutions. And really show that the Madison Public School System is invested, and we value the work we're doing. But we also value the work that they can provide to us and that they share with us as well. Right? I love Canva. I'm on it. So last year was our first year. It was kind of a huge growing year, a shaping year. And so this is just kind of some quick glimpses of some of the stuff that we've done. And so we held 4 sessions over the last year. We felt like that was a really a nice bite to chew off our first year. Each session lasts between 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Our first session was really about providing a direction for the group. And following that, we had a session on developmental milestones. And so really looking at are the tasks that we're providing students in classrooms across the town, are they developmentally appropriate? How can we make them more developmentally appropriate? How can we incorporate what we know about childhood development into the instruction to better support kids? So that was really the opportunities that we were looking at in that second session. Following that, we were looking at how the new play-based learning legislation that's impacting K2, is it going to K3 at all for the opportunity? Or am I just pushing that in my mind?
After that, it's more open-ended.
More open, okay, I'm just pushing it in my mind, getting play everywhere. But it is really important for the pre-K facilities to understand too, how that play education they're providing will also continue. So they are laying really important groundwork, foundational skills for those students as they come into kindergarten and what their play will look like. And I know we think of play in so many different ways, but as you've probably learned a lot through the legislation and you could see in a lot of pre-K environments, play is a really huge instructional opportunity. Students can play with looking with outside, looking at so if you look up here at TCLC, Erin led that group. They're playing outside, but they're actually looking for things in nature to then take back and to tell stories about. And so connecting those pre-writing skills to nature outside and outside of the classroom is play. So I know when we think of play, we might think of like kitchen or recess, but that's also play. The OLM right there, that's my child. Just so you know. It's my daughter Brielle. So even playing in terms of using Unifix cubes to measure things in a non-traditional way, it's actually something we even do in first grade too. But that is play, and that's how it would look in a pre-K classroom. Also looking at Circle Nursery, just in terms of the environment that they set up. There's so much intentionality in terms of how things are coordinated in the classroom that structure things so that play can be successful in terms of an instructional tool. So that's kind of in a nutshell, really what we focused on in our first sessions of last year. Erin, I know you're coming in now. This is Erin Chester. She and I, we do this with Gail. It's a huge effort. Is there anything you wanted to share for us about this?
Sticky notes?
Oh, yeah,
They're contagious.
yeah.
Contagious, yeah. Everybody loves a good stick.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say with the sticky notes is that's how we do a lot of collaborating. Because everybody's a little more honest when they can write it on a sticky note and put it on a piece of paper as opposed to sharing out loud. A lot of times you'll ask a question.
I know Gail likes sticky.
She in dots.
Oh, yeah,
Earlier
I showed the slide.
We already went through the bats, so I
Yeah.
Erin's talking and she's like, that feels right, I can tell.
Yes, absolutely.
So I was just kind of encapsulating what we did in the past year,
Yeah.
focusing on play-based learning, developmental appropriateness, and different ways to structure the classroom and how we can use play as a tool for instruction. Is there anything you wanted to add before we go on?
No, I'm sure you've talked about everything. I don't want to rehash something that you've already talked about, so we can just move forward.
I think something I want to shine a light on though is that Erin and Drew are standing before you very confident in what they've done over the past 2 years, but they were willing to take risk and put themselves out there for this learning community and to really, as lead learners. I mean, here are 2 people who engage in professional learning all the time in their roles here at Madison Public Schools, but now they're leading other people to unite around the common vision of professional learning. And they bring every sticky note, every dot, and everything they've read, studied, what clubs they've led. And they're willing to share that knowledge broadly. So I just have to say that was the flavor of year one, is like, okay, do people want to learn? And if they do, like, what do they want to learn about? How do we help them? How do we facilitate it?
And build relationships. We wanted to be very mindful of not coming across as a public school trying to take charge, because really we wanted it to be a collaborative town effort. Because really, when we're looking at how we're best going to impact kids, that's what we need. We don't just
Yeah.
need one light leading the way, we kind of need everyone leading.
And I think when we looked back at that first meeting, we rolled out, because we were pretty excited about our curriculum that we had written with our preschool. And we used that as a way to share, but then we let everybody else have an opportunity to share what they were doing. And I think it made everybody feel comfortable as a team. And I think back to the sticky notes, we have based all of our meetings on where people really thought they wanted the learning. So there was a lot of focus on social emotional learning. So we spent a whole time looking at empathy through play. We wanted to stay true to the heart of play-based learning in preschool. It's, that's why, I mean, I love going to preschool, because I always say the preschool teachers are like the master of the ceremony. They know all that has to be taught, but the kids are just having such a good time learning. And that's the beauty of it. So we wanted the teachers to feel that as well. And I think too, for our preschool teachers, it was nice to connect to other preschool teachers in town too. And they've been a really big part of this community effort as well, coming to all the meetings.
And just one last thing, Gail, before we move to the next slide, is that we also are really successful in incorporating leaders from around the town too. So in that top right slide, Dr. Cook joined us for a session to also risk take and take questions from the audience. And First Select Woman Peggy Lyons also joined us. And so it's showing the town is invested in early childhood education. Now we can. Yes.
In this discussion and meeting with the members of the consortium, as you're talking about developmental skills, did the conversation ever branch into early identification of, pre-K kids that we might be concerned about, or there might be a heads up in terms of needing more support as they transition into, public school?
Yeah, so our work has primarily focused more on what the teachers see as the need for them to professionally grow their skills to best help students. And one thing we were being really cognizant of is we were trying to, going back to that idea of childhood development, is just reset the bar at what is developmentally appropriate. Because I think sometimes we get so used to looking at kids from a certain perspective that we lose sight of what is still acceptable for a 3-year-old. And so sometimes that can lead to maybe some like an over-identification or a large sense of concern when there might not be one yet. And so I think building capacities within the educators in town has allowed us to mitigate maybe some of that like over-identification or over-concern when there might not be a need for that at that point.
Yeah, all I would say to that is that I know there has been discussion at our meetings of, I think especially initially when we started meeting is, what do you see? Like, what should we be doing more of? Is this feeling? So we tried not, like, that really wasn't the point of why we were getting together. But I think through the learning activities and we did a lot of performance tasks through that, mixing groups, not just keeping school groups together. I think that the teachers were really able to see that it's really not the kids coming out of those teachers that are coming here monthly on their evening and on a Saturday.
Yes.
We're not so worried about their children. They're doing what they need to be doing, right? So I guess I think that was probably more of an initial worry, because it's like, what are we doing here? Are they, you know, again, we didn't want it to be like Madison Public School telling you what we need from you.
I think there was
It more
shared-
like, let's make it a community effort.
There were some shared points of
Yeah.
interest from the pandemic in the
Yes.
first year too, like,
Yes,
are you seeing that? Yeah, we're seeing that too. So it was a little bit of, like Erin said, give and take around the table. We'd mix up groups, like, what are you doing for social emotional? What are you doing for language building? And they would share with each other as expert practitioners too. A lot of these individuals that come to our meeting are very established. They're very well
Yes, many
versed.
years.
They're not, you know, new teachers. They've been doing this work for a while. So they have a lot to offer each other.
That goes to a point that I was gonna make, which, you talked about how you came in with somewhat of a curriculum and the standards, but you opened it up for collaboration. It's not only the collaboration, it gives them agency, and
right,
so there's buy-in,
yes.
and then it picks up more momentum.
Right, because what we actually did was, we provided the standard. If I think back to that event, we did what I did with Lisa Maselli when we first developed, we looked at the standard and said, how could we get to the standard? And that's what we asked the teachers to do in the room as well, so it was like, how would you get to the standard? And then, you know, so it wasn't like, this is what we do and this is the only way to get there.
And I think it goes back to what you had said in the beginning, where oftentimes, you know, teachers in general, but especially pre-K teachers, they feel like this isolated island, and it's like, am I doing this right? And it's like,
Yes.
but there isn't an individual who's sitting shoulder to shoulder with you to be able to say, yes, you're on the right track. You know,
Yeah.
they're oftentimes coaches or whatever a district or a group might have as a support system, even professional development. And
Yeah.
thinking back to my own experience as a, you know, as a teacher, oftentimes it was like, well, where are we gonna put pre-K? What are they gonna do? And it's
Right.
like, no, they actually have things that they need to go ahead and think about too, and it's like,
Mhm.
they often say, well, they can plan together, they can, so it's interesting how it just changes identity,
Yeah.
not just about you know, curriculum and information sharing, but to be seen, to be heard, to have an opportunity to be like, you're this important that we're gonna come out
Right.
together, and that is a message that I think cannot be heard enough.
And I would even pair kindergarten with that as well.
100%.
Because I think
yeah.
sometimes kindergarten gets matched with first,
Mhm.
second, and it's not the same, you
Right.
know?
No.
Not-
Did you have like a bunch of teachers from each place, or who came, like different people? teachers came?
Directors,
Yes.
teachers,
Yeah, whoever wanted to.
whoever wanted to
Yeah.
come, whoever they wanted to do.
Yeah, principals,
Yeah.
and like I said earlier, it's not necessarily the people that only care, it's the people who are able to come.
Yeah.
Right, because there are so many other individuals we know that care so much, but
Right.
their family life or something else might prevent them from coming. We've been really fortunate to have really knowledgeable people that showed us some things
Yeah.
that with, especially like things coming down the pike in terms of pre-K or opportunities for having students graduating college, how to enter the early childhood field with some financial supports and aids that exist that I was not personally aware of. And so it's been a really valuable opportunity to collaborate with directors and teachers from other facilities as well.
And just seeing, I know I went to a workshop for pre-K or early childhood instruction in Southport and ran into a couple of the teachers that were coming. And that was, you know, that was kind of fun to see them out of our area somewhere else, all doing the learning. And us to get excited about, okay, now we can both bring this back to our meetings and talk about it and share what we learned.
So that brings us to our second year. So now we're in our second year. Woo! And so that also led to a logo change, but between, I know, but
Which is.
I'm so excited about that.
Yes.
Between Canva and ChatGPT and myself, this is what came to be. And believe it or not, there was a lot of intentionality going into things like the colors, because I wanted to make sure that it stood on its own and it didn't necessarily match one specific facility that was a part of it. So we had a much stronger vision, we had so much more buy-in, and feel like we were just ready to hit the ground running. And at the end of our first year, Gail was able to connect with Peggy, and we were able to get some remaining ARPA funds. And I think it was $2,000.
$2,000.
Which sounds like a lot, and then you start planning and you're like, oh, okay. But still,
Not as much as we
Sounds
thought.
like-
well, to me,
Yeah,
when
right.
Gail told us, we were like, what?
Wow.
That's amazing. But I will say, going from having $0
Yeah.
to 2,000, really, pun intended later, sparked us for the following year. And so a good chunk of our money went to something that we called Saturday Spark offerings for our first professional development workshop that we put on, not just for our members, but we also opened it up to other facilities that were interested in coming. So I personally reached out to the Red Barn and
Yep.
and some other
Daycare.
facilities that were outside of Madison.
Yeah.
Just to see if they were interested in being a part of it. And the date itself didn't work for all those facilities, but they still expressed interest in future opportunities, which was awesome. So at our first meeting this past year, we kind of established what types of workshops we wanted to offer at the Saturday Spark event. And so if you see on the left of just some of the names, so it's this slide that says Saturday Spark offerings. Madison School for Young Children, OLM, and then we were fortunate enough to have one of our music teachers from Madison Public Schools, as well as our elementary math instructional coach, Jen Maxwell, came to join us as well. But one thing I want to highlight is Madison School for Young Children and OLM were presenters. And so like Seth, you mentioned early agency, talking about buy-in, talking about owning the work. That was totally a volunteer opportunity that nobody had to step up and do.
Yeah.
But we had other institutions aside from our public schools stepping up to kind of fill that role. And with the $2,000, we were able to establish a super small honorarium to just say thank you for that work. And a good chunk of our money also went to expanding professional development beyond the Saturday Spark event and the purchase of books and materials. So Purposeful Play and Story Workshop were two texts that we purchased for the entire consortium and some of the members of their facilities, so they can have those professional development book club opportunities on their own.
And
So
we
again-
can use them
Oh,
too.
and we can
moving
also use
forward, and we can't, we have to mention the lunch and learns.
Yes, we
So-
certainly do.
So from this event, each facility that came was offered money to provide a lunch and learn situation at their facility so that they could share the work with their staff.
So some money was $50 per facility, so
Yeah.
they got a few
Yeah.
books and
Did a lot of
$50.
that to that.
We did, I'm a good bargain shopper.
Yes.
I mean, I do like to shop.
Aaron went home right away and
I
made an
can find a
Amazon
bargain,
list.
I know.
So who do I send it
Oh, we
to?
had giveaways, yes, we
We
did
had some
giveaways.
door
Yes,
prizes
we had door
to
prizes.
incentivize people.
We
So,
But it was really exciting to see, and Gail, we can jump to the next slide, just, there's some pictures just from the event itself. Our shining faces in the top left. We were also really fortunate enough to have a keynote speaker, Maggie Baby
Roberts.
came and spoke with the group to kick it off, which
Who's
was,
actually presenting, I think, at the Connecticut Reading Association in the next few
Oh,
weeks.
yeah,
That's
and-
another presenter.
and just that the work we do with her in district too, we know she's fabulous. But she was also able to come and be our keynote speaker, which was amazing. We also had Scranton Public Library come and share what services that they offer, just so oftentimes it's hard to catch for them to get into the pre-K institutions, and so this was a really great opportunity for them to come and be represented. We were also able to organize childcare for people that was a barrier. We were really trying to think of what barriers might exist to prevent people from coming on a Saturday morning where they're not getting paid. And so we worked with, we found some volunteers, Erin found some volunteers to come and help us out with childcare that day too. So that was really
Yeah, we reached
important.
out to Christine Quayle at the high school and she set up some volunteers, and actually that young lady is going for her education degree at University of Rhode Island. So she came right up to us at the expo, which we'll
Yeah,
talk
which we'll
about, so
talk
she's
about.
really excited about that. There was 3 students from the high school that were interested in education, and we also had teachers from the district who came. We had first grade teachers, kindergarten teachers, We had a teacher that was a student teacher at Ryerson, who was your teacher, who was always into learning. She came because she knew it was an opportunity. We had Kelly Spooner and Becky Frost came to support the work that we were doing, which was incredible. It was a great turnout. It was
So-
like a fun day. It felt, it felt invigorating, to be doing that.
And this is just a representation of the 5 offerings that we had. Top left is music with Carrie Colin. On the top right was sleep with Heather Cartier. So she works for the Westbrook Public Schools as an OT, but she was also Brielle, my child's birth to 3 for a little bit. But she's also a sleep expert. And so she was willing to donate time and have an offering, which she has had another presentation at the Ryerson PTO meeting a couple weeks back too. And so it's really important information that you don't realize you need to know until you're realizing you don't know it.
Yeah.
Bottom right, Jen Maxwell for math. The bottom middle was our representative from OLM teaching about de-escalating young learners. And the bottom left, which was nature-based play from the Madison School for Young Children. So then on the next slide, we have just some pieces from each one. Just showing some more participation in books and opportunities for educators to engage with different resources.
Erin, did you say that there was something similar going on in Southport, or you attended
You
something
know
else?
what, we oftentimes will go to professional development at the Southport School. They offer actually free professional development.
But in terms of a group
So
like
that's where
ours,
that was just an
Oh, just a
extra thing.
standard PD.
That was
yeah,
just a
so,
standard.
but in
meeting.
terms of a group like ours, we're kind of the only one that we know about. It's something that I think is going to become more and more important, especially as the state moves closer and closer to that early childhood, pre-K.
Yeah, well, the governor just put in
Put on
his
the
budget.
Universal.
Yeah, the governor put in his budget
Okay.
money
Yes,
to
that thing.
fund pre-K for families that can't afford it.
Yeah.
Or
It's
for,
all
you know,
good news.
Actually, one of our collaborative members is on a lot of calls
Yes.
that are organizing those efforts. So she was just with us last week
Yeah.
and she gives us updates from that work, which is nice because we're not on those calls. So
Yeah.
You know, it seems like we've got something here that's, again, like Madison's ahead of the curve on something. And it's gonna become more important. Maybe this could serve as a model going forward
That's great.
in the state.
So I'm taking the words out of my mouth.
Ah.
So another thing that we were able to participate in this year, it was last Friday, it feels like a long time ago
That
now.
was right.
Was the
People
career-
sent away.
The Career Expo at the high school, so as Erin mentioned earlier, we made a connection with Christine Coyle at the high school. And she let us know that this Career Expo was going on, and we thought it was a really great opportunity to connect with Daniel Hand High School students and just really show them that there is a career in early childhood education for them. And like I mentioned earlier, really some funding opportunities for their education,
Yeah.
for them to get credentialed and certified. And so it was really cool, got a chance to see some old students, which how are you this old? Because I'm still 25. And but also it was really nice to see the other members of the organization who aren't within the Madison Public
Yeah.
Schools district. Talking with students, also seeing old students, and really watching them be more confident in terms of how they interact with people.
And also offering them opportunities for summer work, a lot of our local preschools run camps in the summer. They need something, we tried to set up a few activities that would, play-based activities where cause high school kids really are just like the preschoolers at heart, right? They just wanna come and play. And information, and like Drew said, there are opportunities for definitely free professional learning. And even money towards your degree, if you get it, so even if we had a student, I had a student that was like, I think I'm going pre-med, and I'm like, well, you still need an undergraduate degree. This might be it, could save a little,
I think
but
what
it was
was
fun.
unique about this opportunity too is this is the first time we had something within the workday
Mhm.
that we invited
Yes.
people to.
Yeah.
So you have 3 directors that took
Mhm.
time away from their centers
Yeah.
to be part of the career fair, which is remarkable. Everything else we've done is nights and weekends. So this means that they felt it was important enough to be present and released from there.
One of our colleagues too, who, it was actually their parent conference day, and they squeezed all their parent conferences later in the day so they could attend. And so, because she felt like it was that important to be there.
So invested.
Yeah,
I actually love this too, because I can remember it was a long time ago going to career fairs and there was never anything for education. It was always marketing, business, you wanna go into sales, and I was like, no, and you get yourself dressed up and walk around. So I think it's great to make yourself visible among those other professions as well.
We were.
okay, so really thinking about what's next. So we've been talking a lot about writing a grant or grants to reach out with the Madison Foundation to seek additional funding to continuously kind of support that Saturday Spark idea and grow further. Another thing that the group has really considered, because we are the first of our kind, is do we want to see this grow along the shoreline? Do we want to see an incorporation of more towns? Or what does that look like? Does it look like a collaborative with our partners at Learn? Does it look like a collaborative with other towns in some capacity? So it is definitely an idea that we're exploring. So like you were saying earlier, Seth, about that, we're kind of piloting something that really will benefit most of the state. Actually, at the career fair, we actually made a connection with a newer early childhood center
Brantford.
in North Brantford, Gemstones or something, their name. Very lovely people, but it's funny, we were explaining what we did, and we're like, oh my gosh. We want something like
Yeah.
that. We're trying to connect with other pre-Ks, but they don't
I
wanna
know.
talk to us.
Right.
They said, all right, well, we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
So there is a need,
Mhm.
and so that's kind of where we are with our work at this point.
It's also kind of a public-private partnership.
Right.
Preschool cuts across
Exactly, yeah.
both.
So I think one of the next steps that we also have is that earlier this year, Peggy Lyons went to a conference on early childhood that was in Las Vegas and happened to be and knew about our collaborative because she came last year, sitting side by side with the Commissioner for Pre-K Education, Beth Bai. And Beth Bai, I know her from a while ago, so I thought, well, I'm gonna email her and see if she wants to come to our collaborative. So Beth and Peggy and Dr. Cook will be coming to our March meeting. So right now they're on target to do that. And we hope that, again, helps us to understand more about what opportunities there are in the state and where our collaborative might go. But clearly, we have enough evidence to say that there is a need and it's successful and that
Oh,
there's
makes sense.
ongoing.
It does make sense.
I mean,
It does.
we're all gonna go to school here.
I know.
We all.
And additionally, I also reached out to Representative Parker and Senator Cohen to see if they'd be interested in attending, and they're checking their calendars, but it's something they're very interested in being a part of. And at least coming to check it out, so there is that need for this kind of work, especially with the way that the state is heading. So we welcome any questions that anybody has, I know we've kind of had a dialogue along the way, but feel free.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
thank you for doing
Yeah,
this
it's
work.
exciting.
Yeah,
Especially
It's
since
exciting
we're
work.
not paying you anything for it.
Yeah, we like it.
Maybe next year.
We enjoy it, right?
I mean, honestly, 2000 great.
Sometimes we have some really good cheese and crackers.
Oh, yeah, well, and again, we know Gail.
We get a lot of stuff at the.
Yeah,
cookies,
you know.
yes.
That, I mean, that was a special occasion, like
That
the
was-
cookie swap.
Oh, yeah, we did a cookie
We
swap.
for the
book
holiday,
exchange.
book exchange. You just have a new
I
right place
know,
at the right
that's
time.
I was the keynote for their,
Yeah, for the,
December,
the-
Yeah.
the
And I
holiday
was
meeting we
like,
had.
okay, I'll
Yeah.
do this every time.
And I mean,
Yeah.
well,
We did a book
And now
exchange,
I'm out.
cookie swap.
Yeah.
And I think Kathy being a part of that session also kind of highlights how we're leveraging relationships with everyone.
Yeah.
You know, Kathy brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we were happy to have her. I mean, anyone is welcome to come and attend, if you're ever interested,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can either
Yeah.
coordinate with Gail, myself, both, March 6th is a Thursday, it's not a board night. Right, I made sure to look through Gail's calendar.
Where do you?
That meeting will
Right
be
here.
here in the Hamanasset room.
Next.
Yeah.
We sometimes have it at different sites,
Yeah.
so
Yep.
you know, where we rotate to different schools, they post.
Yeah,
So we are, again, trying to open doors and become a collaborative, that's what
And
collaboratives
what
do.
time is that usually?
4:30 to 6. About.
So we've been to Temple
Yeah.
Death and we've been to OLM,
Yeah.
those other host sites.
Well,
And I think
awesome-
country schools,
awesome
right?
work.
Yeah, thank you.
You're gonna be welcome.
You know, I salute you, we salute
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, but it-
Thank you.
We do have
You
that.
brought your energy to this
Right.
and made it happen, you know, and we look at
It makes sense.
you know, as a curriculum committee, as the board, we look, oh, okay, we're getting recognition for the continuum in the top end of our educational, you know, but as all we, as we all know, you know, it begins with good pre-K and the beginning, so
Completely.
it's great to see this work, you know, at the beginning phases of the learning process. So thanks, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah. I also want to
thanks
just
so
mention,
much for bringing your energy and enthusiasm to it.
I also want to mention that, you know, I'm always 6 degrees from how important coaching is, and I think that this is. Oftentimes coaches, and I know that it is the case here, and well, everywhere, it's usually K to, 2 or 3. And again, I'll say, like, in the past, it's PD time, who's gonna take pre-K? They can plan together, like,
Yeah.
this was years,
Right.
Right, prior to when coaches then decided, in many districts, like, no, we need to go ahead and make sure that they have what they need, because it's all coming down the pike, and we're all part of this community of learners. And so I think it's, just really highlighting the fact that the coaching model has made such a significant impact in so many areas, and the fact that, Aaron and Drew work so lovely together in Drew's classroom, and then it just becomes this, like, let's do this together. And this has created a firestorm of sparks, and I think it just really speaks volumes for, just like you said, building capacity, and it's just so lovely to see.
The last thing I'll say about it in general is just, I know that Aaron and I and Gail are kind of the faces for it. But just remember that it takes everyone to be a part of it, because without the other schools participating, it wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And so we're really fortunate to have a town that really promotes collaboration, and that we have been able to have this opportunity to work with the other schools, so.
Because if you think about it, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, if you think about it, it could be a competitive spirit that,
Exactly.
I need those kids, we need those kids, we don't want them to be better
Or ours
because we
our
need,
programs.
we want
Right.
them,
Yeah.
and so, but to be able to, rise above all that and really say, like, it's about the kids, and that's what our.
That's what's been most impressive.
And that
Yes.
that's what we really wanted
100%.
we wanted that feeling.
Exactly.
To be a part, but it's also been really great to watch our own pre-K teachers
Yes.
gain a lot of confidence in their ability to turn around and work collaboratively with other teachers beyond their walls too. Yeah.
One thing that we try to do a lot in our curriculum development program is to work towards vertical integration.
Yeah.
It's just like extending it down
Yeah.
further one level.
Continuum
Yeah.
starts a little earlier.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there's nothing more exciting than getting those preschools into our buildings next year. For me, I know.
I know.
And to have the 5th graders, I just think that, one end to the next, it feels really exciting.
It's gonna be amazing.
It is, and I think it's really important for everyone to see everybody's level. I feel like I get to do that as a coach. I get to see how it all goes through, but
Yeah.
for the other teachers to see that.
This is what leadership looks like in
Yeah.
education, so thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you for taking the time
Yeah,
and
thank
listening,
you.
and we're happy to come and talk anytime, and please come to the next meeting, visit, meet other people, that would be great.
Yeah,
So thank
oh,
you.
please come.
Have an amazing rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Zoe.
I was gonna say,
Whatever
I
you
heard
want,
cookies
it's
and I
you.
was like, did you bring something?
Great.
You're offering now?
I know.
But next time, okay, all right.
Here is.
Okay, Valerie, any further comments?
Can I just,
Not
Steve,
have
Steve,
Public.
can I just add one thing real quick? Can we put on the agenda for a future meeting, just a quick discussion, 10 minutes at most, on VR learning? Those virtual reality learning, because Craig and I attended something on that, and it was amazing, so. It'd be good to talk about that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, barring any further comments, you can